So, today I want to talk to you guys about the World Fairs in San Francisco. There was one in 1894 from January 27th to July 5th, and there was another that took place in 1915. I am combining the two topics because to me they all tie together. And as I was looking into these, I started noticing some events that were taking place during this time that made me even more curious. I've always believed in the Tartarian, and that's probably what led me more towards the World Fairs, noticing the architect and that these structures just don't seem like they're from our world. But, well, this picture specifically, I ran across it and I zoomed in on it so you could get a better look. If you look at this, it is so detailed and it's not from us. It has nothing to do with us, and we definitely wouldn't have created this just for a World Fair, especially when these events usually took place for so many months. And then these buildings and structures, most of them were torn down. And again, we see that with the 1915 World Fair. It was held from February 20th, 1915 to December 4th, 1915. I find this so hard to believe that anybody would build all these structures just to tear them down for a World Fair. If we did that today, it would be laughable, and I just don't understand it. I've tried to really think outside the box of maybe these structures weren't as sound as what they appear to be. Maybe they weren't very well built. They were just for looks, just to last a small amount of time. But when you're seeing these pictures, that's absolutely not the case. And even when I've tried to tell myself that that could be, it wouldn't make sense that some of the buildings still exist today because they wouldn't be able to. So, like I said, I've looked into this several times and it's just beautiful. All of the architect was so beautiful. And I don't understand why anyone would destroy it or take the time to build it. So, all of these things have led me through looking into these world fairs and these events that they claim they built them for these events and then just got rid of them. And I've yet to wrap my head around that. And the only thing that's made sense to me is that there was a Tartarian history and that these structures already existed. And we used those for the world fairs and possibly destroyed them to not keep as much evidence. I think today, if we saw these buildings everywhere, they would have to change history books. They would have to actually tell us the truth of when these structures were built. But look at this. This doesn't look new to me. And you can look into a lot better pictures, I'm sure, of this structure. But this looks old. This doesn't look newly built. I know in the Chicago World Fair, they did what they call like whitewashing, where they, painted everything white. But even then, it led me to believe that those were already existing structures that had aged, and they only went in and prettied them up. They gave them a facelift and they made them look new so they could take credit for it for these world fairs. And they kept some of the buildings to use to this day and destroyed the rest. But if they wouldn't have, there would be a lot of history that we would be questioning. I've also noticed this with Washington, D.C., and the videos I've done on that, where there's all these pictures of people building or the top of something being built, but it clearly looks as if the top part is newer and the bottom part of some of the structures were older. And the only thing they did was took a cute photo op of them supposedly building these when they didn't build them. They were taking credit to actually make it look like they did, and the only thing they were doing was adding to something that was already existing. And when you look at pictures like this, I just can't imagine during this time in San Francisco that you would be tearing down all of these buildings, especially when I started studying what all was taking place during this time in San Francisco and in California in general. For example, I come across the fact that there were 7 fires just between the years of 1849 and 1851. Now, 7 fires that were destroying stuff, and that's not the only fire. And you have to think around 1915 when they did the World Fair for then, there had been major earthquakes, there were major fires and devastation, and I'm going to show you those pictures as well. And it just doesn't at all add up, you know? And I hope a lot of people are looking into this because there's a lot of things from our history that just don't add up. And I'm not one of those people to jump on a conspiracy that everything's, fake or anything like that. I'm a logical thinker, like many other people, and I really get tired of people going with, oh, well, it's a conspiracy. Many conspiracies have turned out to be the truth throughout history. And I think every time there's something that they don't want to explain back to us that we notice that doesn't make sense, it's a lot easier for them to say, oh, well, it's just a conspiracy. And like I said, I'm one of those, I really do my research and I really enjoy learning. I love history. And it doesn't matter how many ways I can think of this, it doesn't add up to what they have told us. And of course, as I was looking through and looking into world fairs in San Francisco and comparing them to the other ones I've looked into, I noticed that from 1849 to 1851, there were 7 fires. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with the World Fair, but then also in 1906 was a devastating earthquake. It was a magnitude of 7.8. It occurred on April 18th, 1906. There were 3,000 deaths, and this also led to devastating fires. Now, I found this to be very important for this time. I found that to be very curious because you have these 2 world fairs in this area, and they had already went through 7 fires, and then they do a world fair, and that's a lot of money, and then they tear it down, and then in 1906 they have all of this stuff taking place, all of this devastation, and then in 1915 they built another world fair, all of these buildings, and it just still makes no sense as to why they would do all that just to tear it down when it looks to me like they could have actually used that for buildings during that time. You can see the devastation that took place. Why wouldn't you keep those old buildings? And it got to the point where I found tents and pictures where a lot of people are living in little white tents. And wouldn't it have made more sense to keep that, especially with there being so much devastation, or if another earthquake did occur in California or another fire broke out, that maybe those buildings would be useful? So, again, there's a lot during this time that doesn't make sense. I hope if this is new to you, you look further into it. Definitely let me know what you think. And if you're one of those that you're way ahead of me and you've already looked into all of this and there's something that you can add to it, I love learning and I love getting together with others' ideas. So let me know in the comments and I will talk to you next time.